What's going on, guys? Welcome to the LowKick MMA UFC 252 recap show. I'm your host, Ryan Galloway, and joining me today is Jordan Ellis. Jordan, how you going, mate?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. UFC 252, obviously the trilogy, the big fight between Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. I think a lot of people going into this one, myself included, were hoping we'd see like a storybook ending for DC, see him get this win here and ride off into the sunset. Unfortunately for him, and unfortunately for his fans, it's not what happened. Stipe got the win, but the fight was really good. It was a very competitive fight. I personally thought Stipe won the majority of the rounds. I think he lost the first, in my opinion. Otherwise, he dominated the fight. But DC looked good. He fought through adversity, and he finished the full five. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It was pretty close, but pretty clear to Stipe, in my opinion. I think he dominated a lot of the fight. I think he was eating Cormier's punches like they were not, and he looked the more powerful person in there. And it's just credit to Stipe, because he showed, he's a true mixed martial artist. He showed a new facet to his game. He came out with that clinch and he was dominating against the fence. And for fans, it's not the best viewing, but he did it, and I think that's what got him the fight. I think he controlled the fight, and against someone like Cormier for a lot of the time against that fence, and yeah, he looked great.
For sure, and I think, like you said, he was landing. Daniel Cormier was landing these big shots. He landed that same shot that he put him out with in the first time multiple times, and just couldn't get him away. So I don't know why, but Stipe's durable as hell, which gives me more confidence going into, say, I know we'll get onto it a little bit, but I think his next fight's pretty obviously going to be Ngannou. So can he take those big shots from Ngannou? I don't think so, but it gives me more confidence for Stipe going into that one, seeing how he's able to take that damage. And so I will bring up the big thing that happened during the fight, which was the eye poke. Obviously, Stipe got poked in the eye in the second. They got a break. Stipe got to take his full time and recover, whatever. And then in the third, I think, it might have been the beginning or the end of the third. I can't remember too much. Daniel Cormier suffers one of the worst eye pokes I've seen. It was horrific. Right at the end of the third, actually, because that's right, he lasted to the bell. And then he comes out and his eyes won't open. Obviously, it was damage from a punch before that, but, that eye poke kind of helped. So I just hope his eye's okay. I hope it'll recover. You don't want to see him go blind after something like that. What were your thoughts when you saw that happen?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, but I'm kind of with Dana White on this. I know it does seem quite harsh, but Stipe won the last fight with catastrophic eye injury as well. So it's unfortunate, and I'm sure DC's it might make DC consider coming back, because he might feel like, if my eye was good, I would have won that fight. So I think we might see him come back because of that. But in my opinion, it didn't really affect the fight. I think what affected the fight more for DC was getting caught in round two. I think after that he didn't look the same, and it was a struggle from there. But obviously you don't want to see them things. They happen, but it's unfortunate, and it kind of did. It didn't really take away from the fight, but I'm sure it takes away from the overall result for DC. He probably thinks it really did affect them.
Yeah, I don't think we see DC fight Stipe again. I think there's no intrigue, right? Especially personally, I don't have any intrigue in seeing this again. We've seen it 3 times now. Stipe's the better man on the night twice now. There's no point. DC's only getting older. He's going to have to recover from this injury. He might be 40, whatever. I think is he 40 now or is he 41? He's quite old.
41, yeah.
Yeah, so he's 41. If by the time he recovers this, he could be 42. I don't want to see him come back again. We'll jump onto this now because you brought that up. Jones wants to step up and fight Stipe. Obviously, they're not going to do that next. It's going to be Ngannou. But what are your thoughts on that fight, and would you like to see that happen?
Yeah, obviously, I want to see that happen. I think everyone does. I think last time we spoke, I was saying I just want Jones to get up to heavyweight already. I don't really care who he fights. Just get up there. Have some really good competitive fights. I want to see the best Jones. We haven't seen the best Jones for a while, and I think heavyweight we're going to see that. So hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But yeah, Ngannou next, I think.
And that's a great fight. I mean, the first time it happened, Ngannou was pretty fresh to the sport, I'd say, compared to where he is now. He'd only had a few fights in the UFC, and he's just finishing everyone like he's been. So I think now we'll see a more paced and precise Ngannou compared to the one in that first fight who was just going out there to find a big shot and put him away. And also the wrestling. You got to think that, because that was the big story in that fight, you got to think Ngannou's been practicing his grappling, at least his takedown defense, to give himself some more opportunities to keep this on the feet and land that big shot. Definitely a fighter I want to see. For DC, I think it's time to retire. He could come back later down the track if someone else around his age wants to come back as well and have like a legacy fight. I don't know who it would be, but maybe I can see something like that. Maybe Stipe after he retires. I just don't think it'd be a good idea for him to come back soon. You know what I mean?
No, if you're talking about legacy fights, maybe a Brock Lesnar if Brock Lesnar popped up. But besides that, I'm very happy to see DC, go. I still think he goes out on top. Obviously, it's not the fairy tale ending, but he went 5 rounds with, who a lot of people, including Dana White, think is the best heavyweight of all time now. So there's no shame in it. He put up a good fight, and a few people were saying it was a really close one. And he was right in it till the end. But right now he's 41. He's got nothing to prove. He's got a great broadcast career waiting there. A young family. I just don't see the point in fighting on.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of rooting for DC because I wanted to see that Jones-DC fight at heavyweight. But to be honest, after seeing what Stipe did to him, I don't know if that would have been a good idea for DC to take that fight against Jones at heavyweight. So, nothing that can happen now. Props to Stipe, he's a great champion. He's shown he's the best in the division. He's shown he's the best heavyweight in the UFC. So we'll see how he goes against Ngannou and then possibly Jones in the future. Jumping on to the co-main event. Obviously, Sugar Sean O'Malley's big showcase in the co-main event against Chito Vera, Marlon Vera. There's a clear storyline of this fight, and that was what happened to Sugar's leg. So after I saw what happened, I initially thought he just rolled it. I thought he stepped wrong and he rolled his foot, and that was his foot gone, right? That's what I thought when I first saw it. I went back and watched the fight, and I picked up his foot was injured before he rolled it, but I couldn't work out where. And I wake up this morning and I see on Twitter someone they've worked out it was a leg kick. I think it was just above the knee where it landed from Chito. That just what's it called? Foot drop. He had foot drop, where his foot just wouldn't listen to him, and that forced him to, he stepped over it and rolled it, and eventually got TKO'd. Can't take anything away from Chito, it's not his fault that happened to Sean's foot, and he did it with the leg kick, so it's still a TKO. You're not going to make it a DQ or anything, Sucks for O'Malley. I'm sure he'll come back. 2 fights and he's where he was. What would you think?
Yeah, it was just such an anticlimax because as much as you say you can't take anything from Chito, I'm sure O'Malley will be taking it away. I'm sure a lot of his fans will. There's a big asterisk on this fight because O'Malley started well, and the kick. To be fair, there was a few kicks, and credit to Chito for throwing them, but it seemed pretty insignificant. It's not like it was some brutal leg kicks and he was struggling to stand. It just seemed might be in a nerve thing. I've watched it a load of times and I still can't really figure out what happened with it. But O'Malley, I think he'll take confidence from the fact that it was an injury, and he won't think about it too much. The train will keep rolling. I don't think this really derails it much. He goes back, he gets a knockout, and he's back onto the big things. And for Vera, that's a big win. He'll take it however it comes, and he did well to finish the fight the way he did. O'Malley only had to survive 20-30 seconds, and he couldn't on the floor. He could have locked up, he could have done things like that, but he ended up dropping bombs on him, and then that's why he got took out in the end. It weren't to do with the leg, it's the fact that he couldn't survive with the top pressure from Chito. So very impressive from him, and he goes on now, and he's facing one of the top guys next.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that for me watching this fight, going in, Chito's a late starter. I think he said after the fight that he uses the first round to feel out his opponents and get a grasp of them, and he goes out in the second and third, which you can see from his record because a lot of his finishes come later in the fight. Whereas O'Malley, we've only ever seen him finish people early in the fight. He's only ever gone out there and starched people in the first, aside from when he went 3 rounds. But So to see Chito be able to stand in O'Malley's range and not get taken out in that first round, even before the leg kick, before the leg kick, which caused the injury allegedly, it gave me confidence that it wasn't going to be another Sean O'Malley first round knockout. We were going to get a nice 3-round war between the two of them, which either one of them could have finished the other. I don't know who would have won had the leg kick not put his leg buckled or whatever it did. But nothing, like, you can't. This is the thing online. People were trying to say. I saw comments on. Where was it? I think it was just one of the UFC's posts of people saying Chito Vera lost. They were like, O'Malley won. And it's like, how did O'Malley win? You know, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. Like I said, 2 fights his back where he was. Vera's going to fight Valish Villi. We'll speak about him a bit later, but they were setting that up. Even if O'Malley won, I reckon they would have done the Valish Villi fight. Just after how he looked in his fight, that seems like the right one to make. I think he'll probably end up being around 9 or 10. Chito will probably be about 12. So that seems like a good fight between the two of them. And we'll see how he goes there, because, you know, that's a tough fight. Even if O'Malley had won, that would have been a really tough fight if had O'Malley won and they set that up. So we'll see.
For O'Malley, it's like if you're gonna lose, this is the way to lose. It was, you know, there's a lot of people saying a lot of things, you know, defending him, in terms of his leg thing. The one worrying thing is that when people seem to get these injuries from these kicks, a lot of people seem to tough it out, and the fact that O'Malley wasn't able to tough it out is a bit worrying. You know, just from an observer's point of view, how is his pain threshold? How much punishment will he take? He's used to giving it. How does he take it? So, and a lot of comparisons that I get through is him and Conor McGregor. So Conor McGregor in one of the early fights blew his whole knee apart and still managed to beat Max Holloway. So if you want to compare it, you know, could he have survived? Could he have tied up, got to the end of the round, got his leg back under him? You know, people are being quite kind to O'Malley, but he still, you know, still got wiped out in the first round, leg injury. So I'm sure he'll get back in there, get the hype train going again. If he's going to lose, this is the way to do it. And Vera, you know, he gets a big fight now and he deserves it, you know, because a lot of people think he should be on like a 6-7 win streak. And I kind of agree.
Yeah, just to draw one more comparison, you think about Thiago Santos when he fought John Jones, of all people, and I think it was the second round, he blew everything in his knee, his ACL, MTL, everything tore, meniscus, and he still fought the full 5. And he still was throwing kicks. He was looking good. So I can't blame O'Malley for like being injured and falling and being taken out. But
No,
you know,
absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's just, you know, if you want to compare him to, you know, these people and you want to give him the hype, you'd like to see him come through that adversity, but he wasn't able to. And it was, you know, only a minute or two before he was on the floor. And for me, it seems more like he might have just had like some type of nerve issue or some, just his leg just wouldn't listen to what he was saying rather than a full blown injury. Because as we've seen with Darren Till, he weren't happy, but he was able to, you know, still plod forward and give a good account of himself. Whereas O'Malley didn't seem to have anything under his legs. So it'll be interesting to see what the actual injury was, and even if there was one, it might just be temporary nerve damage. And if he got to the end of the round, he might have been okay. Such a strange one, such an anti-climax, but Marlon Vera is the big winner here, and he'll go on and he'll start to, you know, get the credit he deserves, because he does deserve it. And for him to be outside the rankings before this fight was a bit of a disgrace, and now he's rightfully in the rankings and he gets a big fight. And yeah, can't wait to watch it, and I'm sure O'Malley's rise back to the top will be fun too.
Yeah, just before we move on, if anyone wants to see a good example of that foot drop happening like it did to O'Malley, watch the DJ versus Cejudo 2 fight, because DJ landed the same kick on Cejudo's leg and his leg just stopped working. He managed to stay upright and keep going, but, you know. So we'll move on to the heavyweights, the Junior Dos Santos versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik fight. Going into this, I thought JDS could probably outpoint him for 3 rounds and survive the full 3. I was wrong. Rozenstruik hits like a truck, and when he smells blood, he goes and he puts people out. So, yeah, impressive win for Rozenstruik.
Yeah, I think I went with JDS as well, just because I think Rozenstruik, you know, he had a bad loss and he hasn't really been at this level. You know, when he was at this level, he got a bit dominated by Overeem for a lot of that fight. And yeah, JDS looked good. He looked in brilliant shape. He was moving well. He was doing everything that I wanted him to do as someone who'd backed them to win. But then as the fight was progressing, it was quite early where I spotted this. Once he's back against the cage, his hands were coming down, his chin was coming in the air, and it's just a recipe for disaster. So every time Rozenstruik threw anything, I was kind of cringing, just waiting for him to get knocked out, and then eventually came. From Rozenstruik's side, he was really smart the way he fought. He was really patient. He kept it tight. He was eating punches, but nothing seemed to be bothering him. He was seeing everything coming. It was just it was really clinical, really impressive, and it was just something I could see coming from very early on in that fight. He'll go on now and probably fight Blades. That I feel that makes the most sense on paper. I think they're the two best of the rest outside of Ngannou. And JDS, that's 3 in a row, but it's 3 in a row against top guys. So hopefully he gets a little drop down, we get him a few wins and then get him back in there.
I think he needs to start thinking retirement, right? Just because he's beaten some of the best guys, he's been champion. I don't think he's going to be champion again. And how much does he want to? He's been knocked out 3 times in a row now. To how many times does he want to get finished before his legacy is tarnished, right? I think it's time for him to seriously consider getting out of there. The guys he's been finished by aren't bad guys. Even Rosenstruck, he's not a bad fighter. So, like, he can go out knowing I've only got beaten at the end of my career by top 5 guys. Whereas if he keeps fighting, he's only getting older. He's only taking more damage. You don't know. He doesn't want to go out and become... He doesn't want people to make their name off beating him. You know what I mean? So... Maybe it would be a good idea for him to start thinking about retirement, but that's his decision. Jairzinho Rosenstruck, I disagree. I don't think Curtis Blades is the fight for him. I think they're pretty content on doing Lewis versus Blades. I think his next fight's going to be the winner of... not the winner. I think it's going to be... what's his name? The dude fighting Overeem from Bellator.
Sahi or
Yeah,
something.
Sakai. I think if he gets past Overeem, he'll be matched up with Rosenstruck next.
Be a cool fight. Yeah, if he gets past him, that's easier said than done. I think there's a few interesting matchups at that, fringe level world title challenges. I think JDS could probably stick around just because, in my opinion, there's been no threat of him becoming champion again for quite a while, and I feel like he knows that, but he can still go and beat probably the majority of the top 15. Maybe most of the top 10 as well. So he can make big money. I think he made 500 grand for that fight. So if that's his contract, he's going to fight that contract out, and hopefully they'll give him, easier touches. There's some lower level guys who I feel like he would do well against. The Tanner Bosers or them people who are making some noise and want to take that next step against JDS, and then it's a fairer fight. But I'm not really interested in seeing JDS fight these top guys anymore. I feel like there is, this is the result. He will get knocked out, and we're going to see that. But while he's earning that much money, I think he'll be happy to keep taking it.
I agree. We'll jump down to the fight before that, which was Herbert Burns versus Daniel Benada. I had Herbert Burns big in this one until he missed weight, and then I was on shake. I was shaking then. I wasn't too sure. Obviously goes out there. Didn't look himself, didn't have the gas tank, and you know what? His grappling is his best thing. Everyone knows this. His grappling is his best asset, and he just wasn't able to put it together. Daniel Pineda is a good grappler himself, and just a better mixed martial artist, right? He just took him down and smashed him with elbows and put him out. And beautiful performance by Pineda. I did not expect that, especially someone who's left the UFC, gone to fight in Bellator and then PFL and then come back. I didn't really expect him to come out there and put a statement like that, but props to him for that.
Yeah, it was massive, and it was super impressive. I think it was one of the performances of the night. I'm sure he got a bonus for it. I haven't checked myself, but I'm sure he did. It was just savage, and it was just one of them things where I always love it when you see Herbert Burns is such a dangerous jiu-jitsu player, and he's just sitting in his guard, and he's dominating on the floor. He had him in a crucifix position, and that's why they had to stop it. It was so dominant. It was so and Herbert Burns had some hype behind him. He's on a nice win streak. He was looking good. He's obviously related to Gilbert, and that's a nice tie for him. He seemed to be going places, and Pineda's just took all his shine, took it all, and just stole it all on a late call up as well. So it's massive for him, massive. And Herbert Burns he didn't even get out of first gear. He didn't get going at all. He just got absolutely wiped the floor with. So hopefully it's not too devastating on the mental side of things, and he pops back and we see him back to his best, back in pressing and fulfilling his potential. And Pineda, he's had a mixed bag of a career now, but he's back in the UFC. He's got a nice bonus. He's got a massive win. It's all up from here for him. So good luck to him.
I think Herbert Burns just needs to get his weight under control, man. Because his fight before this was at catch weight. I don't know why it was at catch weight. I think the two fighters, can't remember who we fought. I think they just decided to have it at catch weight. But if you're deciding to have fights at catch weight, then you have a featherweight fight and can't make the weight. You either need to get your strength and conditioning regimen and your nutrition and whatnot on point so you can make the weight at featherweight, or you need to move up. And I don't think he's big enough to move up. He looked a bit pudgy, he didn't look like a chiseled person at 45. So I think he can definitely make featherweight. He just has to get that weight cut under control. And that was the big narrative in this for me. He just looked like he was tired. You look at the first round I think it was the first round when he got taken down. He wasn't even put up a fight. He was inside his guard and he was trying to raise his guard and find submissions, but he just couldn't do it. He didn't have the energy. So yeah, hopefully he gets that under control and we see him come back and do something big.
Yeah, it was just like there was obviously no benefit for him. Obviously, a lot of the time you see the people who miss weight go on to win the fights because they've got that advantage. But for him, missing weight had no advantage at all. So something's gone terribly wrong, and he's had a bad cut by the looks of it, and he's suffered a loss due to that. So I'm sure that'll be like top priority to get that under control, move up, do something, just to make sure that doesn't happen again, because he was a big favourite in this fight, and he's a big favourite for a reason, because he should have really won. And I don't think Daniel Pineda is necessarily, much better than him. But on the night, he wiped the floor with him. So that's a big worry as well, because he had his eyes on the rankings, and that's where he was looking. And if Daniel Pineda on a week or two's notice is coming in and doing that to you, that's not, rankings aren't going to happen to you anytime soon. So much work to be done for Herbert Burns. Good luck to Daniel Pineda. He's cracked it.
Yeah, Burns did have a really catchy walkout song, though. I don't know what it was, but it was very catchy. I like that one. Open the main card, we had John Dodson versus Morabbed Valish Villi. I thought Morabbed Valish Villi did come out here trying to wrestle, but as I said in our preview show, John Dodson doesn't get taken down, and when he does, he springs straight back up. There was 20 takedown attempts, and only 2 of them stuck, and he never established position. He just took him down, and he got straight back up. I was more impressed by Dodson's takedown offense, I think, than Valish Villi's striking. But, he still put on a striking show, and he won. He convincingly won. He landed more. He was throwing bigger shots. And I think just the wrestling stifled Dodson. He just couldn't get anything off because he knew the wrestling was coming. Good performance by Morabbed, and I'm sure he'll get a big fight after that.
Yeah, Morabbed was one of them where I weren't too convinced on him. Just based on his last performance, he took, I think it was a newcomer, Gustavo Lopez, 3 rounds on late notice, and everyone was raving about him at last fight because he landed so many takedowns, and he did it. But I was saying wait for the next one, because I want to see him in with a live opponent, and John Dodson's definitely that, and he dominated the fight, and it was, he was threatening with the takedowns, landing crazy stuff on the feet. He was, talking, shouting, making a name for himself that way as well. So he's someone I'm quite excited to see now, and him against Vera, as you were saying earlier, it's a good fight to make. I think, obviously, I think Vera was maybe hoping for someone higher up after taking out such a win, but I think this is what they're going to settle on. I think that Morabbed is someone they want to push. I see a little bit of push happening from the UFC, and by giving him someone like Dodson and allowing him to perform like that, I think he's a future star. He's one to watch, I think, now. I really am on that hype train.
Yeah, I think even if O'Malley won, they would have gone O'Malley against Morabbed. You'd probably think they give O'Malley someone higher, but you think after this, he just beat number 12. He's got to be number 10 after this. 10 or 9, I'm thinking. And yeah, O'Malley would have been, probably 12 or maybe 10 himself. So it would have been around the same. And obviously he called out O'Malley in his last fight. And the UFC's pushing both of them, like you said. That was the fight to make. Now Cheeto went ahead and beat O'Malley. I think that's the fight they're going to go ahead with. And it's an interesting fight because watching Morabbed fight in this one, I think he's dangerous for everyone. Because Dodson's got some of the best takedown defense in that division, and he was still shooting non-stop takedowns and putting that pressure on. And when he was on the feet, he was capable. He won on the feet, he didn't look like he had any deficiencies in his striking. So you put him against anyone in the top 10, and I don't know how it goes, because can he take him down? And if he can, he'll probably hold him down, It's an interesting one against Cheeto because his jiu-jitsu is so good, and he's so aggressive with his jiu-jitsu too. He wants to be on his back. So I don't know if Morabbed's going to try and take him down as much as he did in this fight or his last, if they do that fight, that is. And on the feet, I think Cheeto is probably a better striker. So it would be an interesting fight to see if they go ahead with that one. Otherwise, I'm keen to see him fight anyone in the top 10.
Yeah, I think that's the fight to make. It seems like the fight to make, but I'm excited to see what's next because he's clear. He's kind of got contender written all over him because he's got everything. He's got that brilliant wrestling base, but then he's also got the feet, and then he's got that relentless, Colby Usman style pressure as well. So it's just he's going to be a handful for anyone. And Dodson, as good as he was, and he as impressive as his takedown offense was too, he weren't able to get anything off himself because he was so busy dealing with all these attacks coming from everywhere and such a high pace. Dodson now, I'd love him to go down to 125. I feel like that's a division where he can make an impact. He's made for it. I think he's about 5'3" as well, so I don't even know what he's doing fighting at bantamweight. I hope he goes down and he mixes it. Once Cody Garbrandt's out the way, who's the next in line? Really, you've got Brandon Moreno and Ashkarov, and then beyond that, there really is no one. So Dodson, he gets 1 or 2 wins at 125, and he's the next guy. And I feel like he could potentially win a title down there if he went down there. I just don't see anything for him at 135, and I think this fight proved it. So hopefully he goes down, and that's what we see him compete at his best weight.
Yeah, I think his only losses at 125 were against DJ for the title. From memory, his only losses were against DJ. Yeah. But they're doing that Alex Perez versus Brandon Moreno fight, which I'm really high on Alex Perez. I think he's fantastic. I think he's probably the next title challenger. I think he gets through Moreno. And obviously that'll be the next person that whoever wins that fight will defend against. But yeah, Dodson can go down. He could have one fight in the top 5 and see himself in a title shot in his next fight. So maybe that's a smart move for him. But yeah, 135 is so small.
Yeah, there's no clear contender. There's such a line at 135 that even if Dodson won that fight, it takes him so long to get to that title. All he has to do is drop down and beat, Alex Perez, Brandon Moreno, Ashkarov, someone like that, and he's got a title shot. Whereas, obviously Sterling is on a crazy win streak and he can't even get a title shot. So Dodson needs to forget about it, get down to 125 as quickly as possible, get a fight in the books, and just start his climb because DJ's gone. Figueiredo is as impressive as he looks. He's a new champion, and he needs to come through more tests. So I want to see guys like Dodson and test him. Because I think he's one of the better fighters at 125.
Yeah, I agree. We'll jump onto the prelims. I've got one I want to talk about first, and I'll throw it to you to pick some. The first one I want to speak out is the fight that opened the night between Kai Kamaka and Tony Kelly, the fight of the night. Awesome scrap. There's some ground exchanges, a lot of striking. It was mostly striking, and it was just an entertaining fight to watch. Did you see that one?
Yeah, it was really good. I thought both guys looked really good. I think these were both newcomers, and the commentators were saying, and I agree with them, that they look so high level. These are the first fights on the card. They're both newcomers, and they are both really high level. So Kai picked up the win, but Tony, he goes away. There's no shame in that loss at all. He looked good. I think it was a fair decision, but brilliant fight. And it's always a shame when the first fight of the night's the best fight of the night, because then everything else just pales in comparison. But it was a fair fight tonight. It was a great fight. Credit to go both guys.
For sure. Well, any other prelims you want to point out before we wrap up the card?
Well, we had Chris Dawkins just after that against Parker Porter, and I think he looked good. Obviously, I don't really know too much about Parker Porter, and he didn't look, aesthetically, like he was going to be winning any titles. But Chris looked light on his feet, really fast, zipping in, powerful. He was definitely one I'll be looking out for next. And then beyond that, you had, who else did we had? We had Felice Herrig in a comeback fight, and she just got absolutely mopped by
Verna Jandiroba.
I can't even say name.
Jandiroba.
Jandiroba. Yeah, she just dominated. She just made no secret about what she was doing. You can tell from that first shot she was just all about jiu-jitsu, and she just got in, just mauled her. And she's definitely one to watch. And for Felice, that was just that's a tough comeback fight after so long out, to have air all over you within a few minutes. So, I'm sure she'll come back. And then just last but by no means least, Jim Miller. I think he took the all-time fights record with that one, 36 or something like that is now. So, anytime he fights, I want to shout him out, because that was a fun fight as well, because it was him trying his best to score a submission, and Vince Michel just doing really well to stay on top, pressure, and avoid it. It was a fun grappling fight, and can't say enough good things about Jim Miller. I hope he sticks around for as long as possible, because he's able to push these guys who are middle of the pack, and he's able to take out rising stars. So as long as he's around, he is, if he's happy to do so, he's a good measuring stick for a lot of guys at lightweight.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jim Miller might be a little bit old, but he still looks good. Like, his jiu-jitsu is his bread and butter. He's still really solid on the ground. He didn't get a submission here, but that's just because Vince Paschal, if that's his name, he was just really good. He held his own on the ground. He was never in trouble that I can remember. He just landed more shots and dominated the fight. But yeah, either guy, both of them really good. Both of them should. Well, obviously, Jim Miller's probably going to continue. I don't think there was any talks of retirement. But he should definitely keep fighting. He can beat some of the good guys. We'll jump on to some news now, though. A couple of matchups that are coming out. Charles Oliveira taking on Beneil Dariush, allegedly on October 3rd. I don't know if that's confirmed. You wrote it. You'd know.
I don't think it is confirmed yet, but it's a good fight. It's a surprising fight for Charles Oliveira because he's right there, and you'd like to think that he might be able to get a better fight than this. But Beneil Dariush, after having a little moan about fighting Scott Holtzman last time out, he's cracked it really because he's got the number 6 guy in the division. You beat him, you're in the mix, and you're with the Poiriers, the Fergusons, the Gaethjes, the McGregors, the Khabibs. Like, you're in that mix, and I feel like Oliveira must have been getting rejected by everyone. That's all I can think of. No one wants that. No one wants the smoke right now from Oliveira, and it's a crazy fight to make, but it's going to be an even better one to watch. So, props for both guys for taking it.
Yeah, well, this is a weird one because it really makes me think of two things. The first is they're going to do Tony versus Dustin because the other opponent for both those guys was Oliveira or McGregor. Which obviously it doesn't look like McGregor's interested in fighting either of them, which in turn doesn't mean he's interested in fighting Khabib because he's only got one fight left, and he said if Conor comes back and beats Poirier, he'll give him the fight. But, the other thing that makes me is weird is like a week ago they were talking about doing Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. And now it's just been switched to Dariush, who's not even ranked, or he might be 15, So it's a dangerous fight for Oliveira because he's risking so much to get so little reward. But where he is in the division, he needs that win because he's right there next to Hooker, right? Him and Hooker are at the same spot right now. Obviously, Tony and Poirier look to be matched up. Him and Hooker, one of them needs to make a statement that I need to be next in line after all this stuff plays out. And with a win here, that really does make that statement. And I think he'll get a big fight after it if he gets through Dariush.
Yeah, I feel like they've definitely just gone down the rankings, and no one's really wanted it with Oliveira, and he wants to keep his streak going. He's in a good position, but he's not in a great position. There's no one speaking like he should be getting a title shot anytime soon. So why not go and take Beneil Dariush out? And then, you've made your case a little bit stronger, and then you can get them big fights next. But I was thinking he'd get matched up against maybe Felder or a Hooker, and it's surprising that he hasn't really. But obviously there's something going on behind closed doors, and it's a good fight. Like, it's a much better fight than the Makhachev fight, in my opinion, and it's definitely one I can't wait to watch. It's just very surprising, and I'd be interested to hear why it's happening. And, maybe see someone interview Charles Oliveira and get his side of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I've got another one here, another matchup just recently. Edson Barboza set to face Sadiq Yusuf. Obviously going to be a good striking matchup. That's a featherweight fight, right? So he's staying at featherweight. Barboza's staying at featherweight now.
This is another one where Barboza was linked to Jeremy Stevens a couple of weeks ago, and now that's changed, and apparently Jeremy Stevens couldn't make the weight or didn't have enough time to train properly. So Incan Sadiq Yusuf, which in my opinion again is a better fight. I think it's a couple of jumps in levels though for Sadiq, and as dangerous as he is, he did get caught a few times by I think it was Gabriel Benitez last time out. So you would be worried about that with someone as dangerous as Barboza, who just needs just a little bit of luck at the minute because he's been quite unlucky. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, but one was a split decision loss to Paul Felder, the other one was a split decision loss to Dan Ige. Arguably he could have won both of them fights, and I'm sure he'll be feeling hard done by. So Sadiq's stepping in with someone who's he's a dangerous man, and he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder at the minute, so it could go wrong. But it's a good test for someone like Sadiq just to see his level.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be a good one. Just before we wrap up, there's one more thing I wanted to speak about, and I'm just trying to find it here because I can't remember the dude's name. Oh God, you might be able to remember the name. That kid that quit on the stool not long ago in his fight, he got cut from the UFC. Did we speak about that last time?
Yeah, we didn't, but as harsh as it sounds, I'm kind of backing the UFC in this one. He was a late notice call up, so he was only on a 1 fight contract anyway. There's no guarantee, and then I feel like he's only 5-0 as well. So it's just like it would be a lot of pressure going back straight back into the UFC. In my opinion, I feel like he'd struggle with that. And just go away, get a couple of wins. He's not the end of the world. Go away, get a couple of wins, come back. Yeah, a load of people done it. He can do it. The UFC don't really owe him anything. I feel like it's the best result for all parties. I know some people don't like that, the fact that he's being cut, and it's a bit harsh, which it is. But I think it's the best for his career. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. His name is Max Roskopf. And, like you said, if you're going to be in the highest level of competition in the UFC, you have to have your mental fortitude to continue in these kind of fights, So for him, I think it was good that he quit when he did because he doesn't need to take unnecessary damage. But I can't blame the UFC for releasing him after that. And it might not have been because of that. You never know what circumstances they're going through behind the scenes. Maybe he doesn't want to fight. Maybe that's why they released him. Who knows? Anyway, that's everything I had. Any other news you got?
No, just to top on top of that as well. The UFC have just cut Beth Coharon and Ray Borg. So, if they don't owe these type of fighters anything who have been title challengers, Max Roskopf, after that performance is not owed anything. And I think, people forget that the UFC is a business and new fighters are coming on in droves at the minute, and you've got people like Daniel Pineda who go and do that to people like Herbert Burns. So there's only so many spaces, and I feel like the UFC, as people like to paint them as the bad guys all the time, but this is the right decision, for their company and for the fight as well, protecting the fighter from himself. Because imagine how much pressure will be on that fighter next time he steps in the cage in the UFC, everyone watching and just waiting for him to quit. You don't want to see it, and he'll go away and hopefully come back better down the road.
Yeah, hopefully we see him again, down the road. So with that, we'll wrap it up, and we'll speak to you guys later in the week to break down the UFC Fight Night Munoz versus Edgar card this weekend. Thanks for watching.